As fate would have it, is the 22nd episode of the 3rd season of Wings. This is directed by Andy Ackerman, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I talk a little bit about the episode and share some thoughts. This is the season finale, and this is my second time watching Wings, and of all of the episodes, I'd say this is one of the ones I remember most vividly. Well, this and the next one, because we end on quite a dramatic moment. It's actually a really impressive final scene, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But this episode, and then obviously the start of season 4, are just so well written, so memorable, so powerful. It actually starts off with everybody up in the plane, and we then backtrack to find out how they all got there. And the story is quite straightforward. Somebody bumps into Helen, or maybe Helen bumps into somebody in the airport, and she kind of ruins their jacket. And she says that she'll give them the money to get it cleaned. And he gives her his details. And she realizes that it's Peter Swinden, the MD of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. And instead of going over to him and praising him, Helen is mad because she sent him an audition tape and he never replied. And in explaining this, he realizes he had seen her audition tape. He did like her performance, but the video had the label on it with her contact details, and the label had fallen off, so they could never get in touch with her. What are the odds that they'd bump into each other like this? And it's a shame because he was actually wanting to hire her, but they had to fill the position with somebody else. And there are a couple of coincidences in this episode. Helen is then asked to fill the position because Swinden gets a phone call saying that the person who had that position has tendinitis and they can't play tonight. So Helen gets the chance to play in the Boston Symphony Orchestra that night. She has to be there by 8 o'clock. And for a good few minutes, she's excited. She's getting really excited and energized and talking to everybody about it. But everybody else, understandably, since it's so last minute, already has plans. And it's like she might have to go by herself. And then one by one, everybody's plans start to fall through. So they can all go up there in the plane and fly over to Boston. And that's exactly how they ended up in the plane. Everybody's dressed very smartly. Everybody's getting ready to go. And problems start to happen. And there's a problem with the plane. And then this is the bit that's really dramatic. In the last few minutes, honestly, it makes me very, very nervous. I'm a nervous flyer. I'm not phobic. I can't go in a plane. I know a lot of people have a very physical response, sweating, shaking, really terrified of it. Thankfully, I'm not that bad, but I'm very nervous at the thought of anything going wrong, particularly with landing and taking off. But the problem here is when they're in the air, and the bit that made me start to feel really sick is when they have to start trying to lighten the load with the seats, getting rid of the seats. That's when you know things are really in a dangerous situation. And, well, we end on a cliffhanger as we genuinely don't know if they're going to survive or not. It's a really horrific situation and it's very powerful. And I do feel really sick watching that scene because it feels realistic and absolutely terrifying. And if that's not a way to guarantee you get commissioned for another season, I don't know what is, because who wouldn't want to find out what could possibly happen next? I know what happens next, but I won't talk about that just now, of course. Season 4 is a good season, and we do have at least one guest appearance, very brief cameo, that I'm really, really looking forward to. I think much later in the season, but we'll get there eventually. And next week I will discuss the opening of season 4. And for now, I can say that as a finale for season 3, as fate would have it, is a brilliant episode. And it does also beg the question of, is fate in charge of this? Because it seemed like nobody was meant to be on that plane. And then events in that day meant that everybody was on it and they might just be about to plummet to their deaths. So kind of terrifying and very well done. Very well written narrative, great structure, really unpredictable, really exciting. As fate would have it, is a very strong ending to the 3rd season of Wings.